Hello everyone, welcome to Madrid Pulse. You got source of latest news events and everything happens in heart of Spain. Real Madrid sweat on untimely Vinicius Jr. injury as La Liga title hopes hang by a thread after damaging Clasico defeat. Vinicius Jr. could miss Real Madrid's upcoming game after suffering an ankle injury in Sunday's El Clasico. But before continue, make sure you have already subscribed for getting more Real Madrid updates. Let's dive in. Barcelona moved closer to the La Liga title after a 4-3 win over rivals Real Madrid in Sunday's El Clasico. Rafinha scored a brace, while Eric Garcia and Lamine Yamal scored a goal each as the Catalan Giants almost ended Los Blancos' title hopes. To make things worse for Carlo Ancelotti's side, whose title hopes now hang by a thread, star winger Vinicius Jr. picked up an ankle injury and had to be substituted in the 88th minute as Victor Munoz replaced the Brazilian. Now, journalist Ruben Martin reports that the 24-year-old underwent the first set of tests on his injured ankle, and it showed a grade 2 sprain. Martin further claimed that it is unlikely that the star player would make it to the club's matchday squad against Mallorca on Wednesday. Kylian Mbappe's first ever El Clasico hat-trick on Sunday took his season's goals tally to 38, the most a Real Madrid player has scored in his debut campaign at Santiago Bernabeu. While the Mallorca clash remains a must-win for Ancelotti's men to remain in the hunt for the title, the Blaugrana could seal the fate of the league with a win over Espanyol a day later. Fabrizio Romano declares Rodrygo's time at Madrid over, very forceful. Shocking message from the journalist, Rodrygo has a very complicated future. Ancelotti met expectations with his starting 11 and put Arda Güler as the big surprise. The young Turk had earned it with the level he showed in recent matches. But that meant there had to be a sacrificed player, and that was none other than Rodrygo Goes. The Brazilian waited for his moment on the bench, however it never came, not even in the second half. Needing to attack and score goals, not even when Vinicius had to leave the field injured. Ancelotti brought in Endrick and debuted a youth player like Victor Munoz. The former Santos player didn't step onto the field, and some like Fabrizio Romano have considered it definitive. 0 minutes for Rodrygo today in the Barcelona-Real Madrid, published the journalist. And he did so alongside a black and white image of the Brazilian footballer. Amid doubts about Rodrygo's future, this benching in the Clasico has arrived. Moreover, the fact that he didn't play a single minute has been taken by many as definitive. They believe it is the sign that his time at Real Madrid has ended. At the end of the match, in the press conference, Ancelotti was asked if something was wrong with Rodrygo. It was strange that he hadn't warmed up, especially because they needed fresh men up front. But he preferred to debut a youth player rather than put in the Brazilian. He didn't warm up because he has recovered, but wasn't at the maximum or ideal level to compete, Carletto pointed out. Against Celta, he wasn't there due to a feverish process, and it seems he isn't at his best. That was what he pointed out when questioned if it was a punishment for the former Santos player. But without a doubt, this benching and the fact that he didn't even warm up is going to be talked about. Especially because the rumors about his future have been intense in recent days. And this fact is not going to quell them, but on the contrary, it will be constant this coming week. Rodrygo said during the week that he didn't feel strong enough to play in El Clasico. The Brazilian didn't even warm up in the match against Barcelona at Montjuic. Rodrygo Goes was substituted at halftime in the Copa del Rey final against Barcelona at La Cartuja and has not appeared on the pitch since. An illness forced him to suddenly miss the match against Celta Vigo, and he also failed to appear in El Clasico when his team most needed his play and goals. The Brazilian told the coaching staff after the match against Celta, a game he didn't play in again, that he didn't feel strong or up to playing at the time. He completed 4 training sessions during the week, but his feelings weren't particularly good. Carlo Ancelotti decided to include the Brazilian in the squad for the match against Barcelona in an attempt to protect a player who has been very important in the Italians' 4 seasons in charge of Real Madrid. But since last February, his importance, in terms of his contribution to the game, has disappeared. Curiously, this season began with doubts due to the BMW issue, but he managed to turn things around. However, this time, he wasn't included in the plans during the week of preparation for the match. The substitution in the cup has been a definitive blow to his morale, to which have been added the numerous rumors that have appeared about his future, which has led to a situation that is not to the liking of the footballer. Radio Marca has already reported that he's considering a change of scenery, or at least considering a destination. Last summer, following the Champions League triumph, there was talk of a possible move and of interest from City. Now it's up to the Brazilian to make his move and decide what future he wants, whether to keep playing and return to a positive dynamic. Ahead of him is the Club World Cup and the arrival of Xabi Alonso. This season, he's played in 50 matches with 13 goals and 10 assists. While he scored in the first leg of the Champions League round of 16 against Atletico, he hasn't scored in La Liga since January.